court wrapping just a short time ago in the first ever criminal trial against a former president of the United States. Presidents have been impeached, they've resigned, they've been voted out of office, but for the first time ever, former President Donald Trump is facing a jury of his peers in criminal court. It's all stemming from those charges related to a payment to a porn star, hoping to hide an alleged affair with Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. Prosecutors and defense attorneys now starting to lay out their cases, and the state already calling the first witness to the stand, former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker, who they say was part of that scheme to buy and bury unflattering stories about Trump. Leading us off, our investigative reporter Olivia Rubin, attorney Jerry Goldfeder, senior counsel at Cozen O'Connor and director of the Fordham Law School's Voting Rights for Democracy Project. Olivia, let's start with you. A lot of salacious details brought up in court. How did Trump handle it?
Some really brutal moments, Kira. I think zoning in on the moment when prosecutors in their opening statements brought up the infamous Access Hollywood tape. They read portions of the transcript to the jury. They said that Donald Trump was bragging about committing sexual assault, and Donald Trump just had to sit there and listen. And I will say, just watching that camera that's directly on his face, you could tell it was difficult. It was one of the few moments when prosecutors brought up this tape that you could see Donald Trump shaking his head. He pursed his lips. He was fidgeting in his seat a little bit, shuffling with papers. At one point, he grabbed a pen, clearly sort of, trying to figure out what to do in that moment where, remember, he can't really do much. He can't talk. He can't chime in. He can't say anything. And so for that time, it's really just about sitting there and listening. And I do think that his attorneys, when they got up for their turn, his attorney, Todd Blanche, tried to humanize him a bit to counter against these ideas of him as the president, of him in power, of him, in the Access Hollywood tape. And Todd Blanche, his attorney, said to the jury, he's not just the former president. He's not just the man that you've seen on TV with The Apprentice. And what Todd said was, he's a man, he is a husband, and he is a father. And it was a really striking line that I think was going to be tried to use to counter some of these really salacious, these really raunchy details that are going to be laid out in front of the jury for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
So, Jerry, what do you make of former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker as the first witness called by the prosecution? Why set the tone here with Trump's longtime friend and protector of damaging stories?
Well, I think Pecker is important because the defense is going to try to devalue the testimony of Michael Cohen. And other witnesses, like David Pecker, will corroborate what the district attorney has to say in its charges about this cover-up. And there are documents that will show that as well. It's interesting. He may be a husband and a father, but I'm not sure that that's a great defense, because after all, if I were a juror sitting there and I was told, well, he's just an ordinary guy, he's a husband and a father, look what he did. And there's no getting away from what he did. And the Access Hollywood tape, even though they're not going to hear the tape, they're going to hear the transcript. They've heard part of it already. And when they hear that, they're going to say, well, what kind of husband was this? What kind of father was this? And the Access Hollywood tape shows what kind of person he was and why they were so crazed about covering up the Stormy Daniels, because it was right before the election and right after the Access Hollywood tape came out. So that's what really motivated them to have this hush money scheme and cover it up and falsify business records that the jury's going to hear all those details about. So I'm not so sure that the defense was so smart by trying to portray him as just an ordinary guy. The jurors may say, not such a good husband.
So, Olivia, what else is the prosecution hoping to learn from David Pecker besides Trump's attempt here to just pull off these dirty tricks before 2016 campaign? And then all the way to the election day, really, he was scrambling.
Well, David Pecker is sort of a key aspect, and if you think of the link of what occurred here in terms of the payments, because remember, Donald Trump didn't pay Stormy Daniels directly. It was Michael Cohen and David Pecker who worked together to buy the story. Michael Cohen made the payments. Donald Trump paid Michael Cohen. So what prosecutors need to do is they need to lay out this link for the jury so they can understand the flow of the money, because what this case is actually about on the charges is the flow of the money. It is not about the affair. It is not about, Access Hollywood. It is the falsification of business records and the payments. So the jurors need to understand exactly where money changed hands. And they also sort of framed it as this bigger story that David Pecker is at the center of, because the charges are related to the payments of Stormy Daniels, but what prosecutors say is it was just one piece of a broader scheme, where Karen McDougal was paid off, where a doorman for Trump Tower was also paid off, and that it all started with this one meeting with Michael Cohen, Donald Trump, and David Pecker. And that's how they opened their case today. So they opened their case as David Pecker, the central man at the center of what happened here.
All right, Livia Rubin, Jerry Goldfeder, thank you both so much.